Hello boys and girls, Itai here. Welcome to a Boeing 777 PMDG video in Microsoft 2020. Today is December 6, 2024, and I thought it's a good day to refresh on some non-precision approaches as the freighters do a lot of night flying into a lot of airports that are not as big or as infrastructure support brings them to have the best approaches. So sometimes you would approach not JFK or LAX, but Indianapolis Airport in our case, which is a rather big airport, to be honest, with ILSs and stuff. But oftentimes the freight dogs would operate at night and arriving to those airports where maybe there's a runway closure or an ILS closure for maintenance or something like that. So it's not a bad idea to be rehearsed on non-precision approach procedures. In the 777 we're doing the LNAV VNAV approach, so we don't have IAN for those who know what it means. We're doing LNAV VNAV. So let's refresh on our procedures. Why do the freight dogs work nights? Basically because they're moving, let's say the packages moved from point to point all day and arrived to the airport towards the evening, then the freighters would fly them through the night, arriving to wherever they want to go before morning. So in the morning, the local delivery systems can take them to their destinations. Now, for this approach, we're going to do the RNAV Yankee runway 5 left in Indianapolis. It does have WAS approach, but we're not going to use WAS. Final approach course is 050. Minimum altitude OINC is 2100, and the decision altitude for us is 1136, which is held in, and that is barrel minimum with almost 400 ceiling required. We have close to 1000 ceiling. We need the RVR 4500 or 7/8 of a visibility. We got 10 statute miles today. Tensile elevation is 747 feet, great number. MSA around the runway is 3100. Missed approach climb to 1300, then climbing left turn to 3000, direct KD and hold. Notes, I'm not going to cover all of them, I just want to cover the last one. VGSI and RNAV glide path, not coincident. VGSI angle 3 degrees, TCH 68 versus if we're doing the actual approach on the glide path, the TCH is 53 feet, meaning when we finally break off and see the PAPI, we might see 3 reds, for example. And that's totally fine, assuming we know exactly where we are on the approach. We can brief that 4 reds, for example, is not fine. 3-degree glide path, PAPI on the left, ALSF2, and we talked about that. So that's basically for this approach. Everything is set up. We just did the briefing, so let's just get the descent and approach checklist. Descent checklist recall checked, notes checked, auto brake 3, landing data run, landing flaps 30, VRF 150, and barrel minimums 1136. Approach briefing is complete, descent checklist complete, approach checklist altimeter 2992, and that's descent checklist complete. We are fully ready for the approach, so let's turn inbound direct to Wayne, which we should be crossing at above 4000, I believe. I don't know why the altitude is not there. Let's reload the approach. Wayne intercept. Yeah, the altitudes don't come in for some reason. We'll do direct Wayne. We will do VNAV, but I do need to open the speed intervention and bring it down. And let's just put the altitudes manually. So Wayne, we got 210 maximum speed. We're already below that. Wayne is 5000. Football is 4000. Or above. $4,000 or above at football. Maybe we should hit that real quick. Why did it not put it in? We'll put 4000 as a cruising altitude, and now it should do perfectly fine taking it. There it is. And we have football coming up. And that's it. Fantastic. Let's get the altitude down to 2,100. As we are cleared for the approach, you can see that we are on the glide path. We're on a VNAV path with the speed intervention open. We can dial the speed back a little bit to flaps 5. And as we are approaching glide path, we are starting, well, we shouldn't start yet until football, but you can see there's a stop of descent there. We're fully set up for the approach. The key to these approaches, if there's, let's face it, we don't use them often, they're non-precision, we're used to ILS. So the key is to get set up slightly earlier than you need. So here we are on the glide path. Let's say we're clear for the, to land clear for the approach. And we are in the clouds. And it's, yeah, descending really nicely here on the path. Let's do gear down, flaps 20, flaps 20 speed, complete the procedure. The lights are all on.
Radio altimeter.
Radio altimeter is alive. Speed brake armed, checklist ready. And let's get fully ready here. Oink is the final approach fix at 2100. I don't want to get set up here before that, if I can. Flaps 30. Speed to V approach. As we're approaching Oink, I want to set up the missed approach, the MDA, excuse me. In our case, the DA, it would be 1140. So approaching Oink, Oink looks like it's gonna make it. We're calling approaching glide path when we're getting close to the final approach fix, and then we dial down the altitude to 1140. That's when it's going to give you an uneven number here. We can see some ground here. Very crucial to make sure that the altimeters are correct, the QNH is correct, and that we're crossing Oink, the final approach fix, at the correct altitude, 2100, and then we are descending down to the minimums. Now, since the minimums are set at this point, and we're more than 300 feet below missed approach altitude, we can set the missed approach altitude of 3000, which is set landing checklist. Landing checklist complete. And approach lights in sight. Runway in sight, cabin ready, 1000, fantastic. And runway in sight beautifully, a little bit ahead of time. But as you can see, it is IFR, it's just below 1000. So it is an IFR weather, pretty perfectly supportive of such approaches. But you can see we can get down on this approach way lower than 1000. You can see that's pretty low. We're getting 500 stabilized. We're getting really close to the runway with nothing but LNAV and VNAV.
50 above.
Okay.
Decide.
Minimum landing. Manual flight. And all that's left is to land the thing. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Do let me know in the comments what you thought. And do enjoy those nice freighter flights in the new PMDG 777 freighter. I'll see you in the next one.
50,
Bye bye.
30, 20, 10.